good people, great nation. That's why we sing. Yes, we can today. That's why we sing, Nigeria. We can make it through. That's why we sing. Yes, we can today. That's why we sing, Nigeria.
Nigeria is a country blessed with so much wealth. Wealth of people, purposeful, purpose-led, and purpose-driven people. Wealth of resources, industrial, agricultural, mineral resources. Wealth of infrastructure, wealth of finance, wealth of land, wealth of oil, wealth of brains, high IQ, intellect, and smartness, wealth of enterprise and entrepreneurship, wealth of development, wealth of creativity and entertainment. Our film, music, and arts are being exported far and wide. Wealth of culture and traditions. Wealth of values, rights, and sense of worth. Wealth of faith, trust, and belief. Wealth of growth and development. Wealth of leaders, purposeful, purpose-led, and purpose-driven leaders. You name it, Nigeria has its fair share of wealth. Wealth, a six-letter word that stands out in definition, identity, distinction, and context. Wealth, an abundance of valuable material possessions or resources. The state of being rich, affluent, you could call it. Goods and resources having value in terms of exchange or use. A great amount, a profusion of something. In fact, Nigeria as a country is wealth. Nigeria is a fast evolving country. From the time of its amalgamation in 1914, 101 years ago, to its attainment of independence in 1960, 55 years and counting. So much has happened in Nigeria and to her unique people. Modern day Nigeria, that is post-independence Nigeria, has faced many issues, events, and happenings in around Nigeria, which have had various effects on Nigerians. We have crisscrossed from civilian to military rule, from military rule to civil rule, back to military rule, before settling back into civil rule. To date, civil democratic system of governance remains with us and has grown in leaps and bounds since we decided to settle with civilian rule. The development strides made in the past decade alone are reason to conclude that Nigeria also has wealth in civilian democratic rule.
In this period, no matter what challenges we've been having, the economy of the country has been rebased to be $500 billion, and that is attracting more interest globally to Nigeria. That is a major achievement of government, because for your economy to be rated so highly, that means that foreign direct investment is quite high. And of course, Nigerians too are doing well in businesses. It's not just about government. The government alone does not create a very big economy. And when an economy is so big, it can accommodate more people. With our population, if the economy is small, there will be a lot of unemployment. With a big economy, more people are absorbed. So that clearly shows that something is happening in the country.
Today, everyone is talking about oil price, as if it should be news to us. It should not be news. It should not be news, or it should not be a new story to anyone. We knew for decades that we were relying on one commodity. We knew for decades that we were just exporting raw materials and importing finished products. We knew for decades that we were just exporting jobs outside this country by exporting crude oil. We knew that we were not supporting and doing anything about it. This is a government that for the first time in the history of this country has a plan called the National Industrial Revolution Plan, which is to diversify the economy and revenue sources. And it's not just having a plan which is integrated, which is holistic, which is comprehensive, it's that we have started implementing it. So when you hear about the sugar policy today, we were importing 97% of the sugar we consume as a nation. Today we have $3 billion going into sugarcane to sugar. By the time they finish in the next 3 to 4 years, at least 180,000 jobs will be created in this country. And most of them will be in states like Kebbi, Kogi, Adamawa, Niger State. There's 6 of them in northern states of the Federation. And I've gone to inspect the one in Niger State, done by flour mills. By the end of this year, they will start producing in the country. It is because of that we have the auto policy, where for the first time in the history of this country, we have firms like Nissan assembling in this country, Hyundai assembling in this country. Ford was here last week. Toyota is doing their due diligence. Peugeot, Volkswagen had left this country. They are back in this country, producing in this country. And the beauty of the auto industry, which is one of the highest employer of labor anywhere in the world, is that there are at least 2,000 parts in a car. Most of those parts will be produced by local SMEs. So there'll be jobs for our graduates, and we will encourage them to do that. We're doing matching them with some of the JV partners of these individuals. It's under this policy that we have the cement policy, which we were producing about 16 million metric tons in the country. Today, we have the capacity to produce 39.5 million metric tons. Today, Nigeria has become a net exporter of cement in ECOWAS across Africa. It is under this policy also that we have the cotton, textile, and garments policy, which is also new. We, in the past, focused on cotton and textile. You may recall that that sector actually was second employer of labor in this country before. But today we're extending it not just to textile, but to garments and to fashion design, tailoring, and all that. That policy, fully well implemented, in 3 years we created about 1.7 million jobs. If you look at from cotton to fashion. It is under that policy today that we have managed to attract about $14 billion into the petrochemical petroleum product sector. So for example, if the $9 billion that has been committed to an integrated petrochemical plant is implemented to the letter by 2018, for the first time in the history of this country, we would no longer import petroleum products. We will actually become a net exporter of petroleum products.
Look, we used to be one of the biggest players in the food and agricultural market in the 1960s until we found oil. So the president was very clear, well, let's get agriculture back on track, and that's exactly what we've done. And I'm excited that agriculture is right back in the middle of the economy right now, as it should be. When the president put up the plan, which we call the Agricultural Transformation Agenda, it was clear that we had to add 20 million metric tons of food to our domestic food supply by 2015. Imagine that was between 2011 and 2015, and we went to work. And right now, by last year, we had increased it by 17 million metric tons of food. By this year, we will have surpassed 21 million metric tons of food, which is 1 million metric tons of food above our target for 2015. And the reason why this is happening is because of the fundamental reforms that we've taken in the sector. The president has been enormously supportive. First and foremost, we had to make sure that we get our markets working, our input markets, farmers getting seeds and fertilizers working. We've reached, as of now, 14 million farmers all getting their seeds and fertilizers via their mobile phone, and several other policies we've taken. So we're well ahead of our target.
For the first time in a long time, giving emphasis to fuel diversification or diversity. We are doing coal. We are working very hard to make sure that coal generates power in Nigeria. We also have established 3 communities as a test case where we have given 24/7 uninterrupted power supply using solar technology Durumi, Shape, and Waru. And Mr. President himself commissioned and flagged off Operation Light Up Rural Nigeria on the 13th of January 2014. So for 1 year, they've had uninterrupted power supply. A situation where Mr. President inherited less than 3,000 megawatts, that's about 2,800 real-time weighted average power delivery on a daily basis, to where he now delivers over 4,000 megawatts, I think is substantial in one tenure of being president of Nigeria. And I think that is tremendous. The problem is because Mr. President is reaching out to rural communities. So many more rural communities that didn't even have 1 hour of power supply because they were not connected to the grid are now being connected. So any incremental benefits that the nation receives, it trickles down. So at the end of the day, if you are getting 10 hours, you probably are getting 14 hours now. If you are getting 18 hours, maybe 20. There are a few places that are getting 22 hours, 23 hours, and so on. Very few places, but it's growing. And then those who are getting 0 are now getting 4 hours, 5 hours, and so on.
The main focus of the Ministry of Water Resources is to make policies for the development of the water resources of Nigeria in a way and manner that there would be equitable distribution for potable water, for agricultural purposes, especially as regards irrigation, for hydropower development, and also ensuring a balance in the ecosystem. Well, within the period of this administration in Nigeria, the ministry has been able to do so much. With approval by Mr. President for the ministry to be recreated, so much has been done. He also gave us a marching order to ensure that all projects within the water sector that had been for a long time abandoned or poorly executed, he gave instructions that we must ensure that these projects are completed. And within the past 4 years, that's just what we've been doing. And we've been able to complete about 37 dams across this country. The dams that we construct are usually of multi-purpose use. They are used for water supply, for irrigation development, and also hydropower generation. In some cases, they are also used for fisheries development and tourism. We also have the Galma Dam, which is in Kaduna State. It's also at the point of completion. It's going to generate about 3 megawatts of electricity. And all of this, of course, would be available to support rural industrialization, especially because of our linkage with the Ministry of Agriculture. They are setting up stable crop processing zones in different parts of the country. We've undertaken the rehabilitation of over 1,000 boreholes across the country. We have been able to construct more than 5,000 boreholes also in different parts of the country, especially within rural communities. So I believe that with concerted efforts by the different tiers of government, that in the next couple of years, Nigeria would be able to boast of adequate provision of potable water to our teeming populace. That is at the same time also strengthening our engagement and our involvement in supporting food security through developing the necessary infrastructure to support irrigation. With so much water conserved in our reservoirs, I believe that we'll be able to surpass the food needs of Nigeria and even have excess to reserve.
Far back as 2009, Nigeria has become notorious with the number of wild polio cases, despite our efforts to strengthen the routine immunization. By then, we were among the 4 major countries contributing to the global world. That is whereby India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. And that is why, with the inception of Mr. President's transformation agenda, specifically targeted at eliminating of polio, we started making progress. Around 2011, we only had about 200 cases reported of wild polio viruses. We continue to intensify through the leadership of Mr. President, and this yielded to a lot of tremendous achievement. In 2013, these cases were limited to only 53 cases. So the success story was that in 2014, there were only 6 cases reported. And this is only on 2 states, Kano and Yobe State. The 5 cases were located in Kano, 1 single case in Yobe. This is a clear testament that the government is working. Our efforts to eliminate polio was making success. So this is a remarkable achievement under the leadership of Mr. President, and we are proud of that, and we'll continue to strengthen our efforts to ensure that this success is never lost. Unfortunately, we had issues with Ebola. I happen to be the minister who had the very terrible task of informing Mr. President in the Federal Executive Council meeting. And I'm sorry, Mr. President, we have confirmed a single case of Ebola in Nigeria. And his reaction was, Honorable Minister, Nigeria doesn't have vacancy for Ebola, so do whatever it takes to get rid of Ebola. That is the kind of leadership of Mr. President. Immediately, he took personal charge of this. He declared Ebola as a national emergency, and we should do whatever it takes to get rid of Ebola out of the country. We just obeyed the command. So he gave leadership and supported us all the way. And now we have proven the whole world wrong, that with better organization, with leadership, right leadership, Nigeria can be world beater.
We always had IT policies, we had the telecoms policy, but because the industry has converged, you can't really separate technology from communications. We actually came up with the first ever ICT policy that really sets the agenda for government when it comes to the ICT sector. The second policy that we rolled out in this administration was a broadband policy. And that was because Nigerians are agitating for fast internet. We need to have this connectivity. We need to be connected to the rest of the world. And the connectivity we have in this country really is not at par with developed economies, or is not at par with even what we desire. And while it is true that the telcos, the ICT infrastructure providers were building out this infrastructure, they were doing it really on their own terms and at their own pace. What we did was to actually bring the whole industry together to say, look, this is what we need to do in terms of broadband. And we actually had, it's not really just a policy, it's a plan as well, a roadmap. And it says very clearly what we want to do. We have a target or a goal, a policy goal of getting broadband, increasing our broadband penetration, our fast internet penetration from 6% to 30%. And with that 30%, it means that 80-something million Nigerians will have access to fast internet. The third policy that we looked at, that we actually launched in this time, was a local content policy. And that's the one that is really all-encompassing. Local content meaning that we see a sector that is very lucrative, many opportunities in the sector, both for young people, for big companies, for small companies, for entrepreneurs. And really, we just saw that we weren't getting enough Nigerian companies and Nigerians participating in this industry. So that local content policy is all about getting more Nigerians to participate in this sector, creating more jobs in this sector. And that gave rise to the kind of the technology incubators that we have established with the private sector to support technology entrepreneurs, to support software development. It also looks into how we can increase the skills, the number of Nigerians that have the requisite skills to participate in this sector, both the low-end skills and the high-end skills. It's also looking at, very importantly, the role of multinationals, because we see the global ICT industry is one that it's global. It's not a local industry. The supply chain is global, the skills are global, and we also have defined the role that we want the multinationals to play, not a transactional role, but a partnership role. And I'm happy to say that we're seeing that happen. I would say President Jonathan is and sincerely, he's a president that is very much consensus driven. He's very fair in the way that he approaches decisions. He's actually very funny as well. So at council meetings, sometimes when it gets to when ministers are getting very agitated and the arguments get too hot, sometimes what he does is that he cracks a joke and everybody just relaxes. So that's actually a very nice part of him. Obviously, as a president, president, you don't get to see him, every day or every other day. But the times that you get to see him, he's always very engaging. He asks you the right questions. He's extremely insightful, because I can imagine a president that has, 36 sectors to preside over. He can't know everything about every single sector, but he tends to ask the right questions.
We took a quick look at the system and said, first of all, we need to introduce performance management. We need to get people accountable for what they do. So we introduced performance management system in FAN. We changed all the airport managers across the airport. We launched a web portal that tracks real-time performance of airlines in terms of timing. If you go to the aviationportal.com, you will see how airlines perform every day. How many flights were delayed, how many were not done, and you can rank the airlines. And you can, from there, make your choice. Which airline am I going to use at which time belt of the day that keeps to their schedule? That alone has significantly increased the airlines' timing, because they know that the public is watching, everybody is watching. So we believe that we're going to use this period of downturn to turn around the fortunes of Nigeria's aviation, to make Nigeria to be a regional hub for aviation, and to make sure that the flow-through processes that are aligned with aviation, cargo handling, fresh farm produce, export of goods from Nigeria, because now export is looking good. At 200 naira to the dollar, Nigerians would like to earn the dollar. And with oil revenues going down, we think that we can provide a hub of activities that will lead to an export market of perishable goods and of high quality goods. So the president is driving real, tangible reforms in the aviation sector. And part of those reforms, we've updated the NCAA law. We have given them the independence they require. We have trained manpower. We are installing airfield lighting in 13 airports across the country. It's currently going on. We're also upgrading our automated landing equipment. We're upgrading them. And significantly, we're training the staff to make sure that Nigerian aviation has 24 hours function. So the transformation agenda is a real agenda. It is not a wish list. It is not something that we are planning to do. It is something we have done. And in all the sectors where I have worked, we've delivered real value, attested to by third parties. What I consider the unifying principle of the Jonathan administration is what I call Access Nigeria, creating access, making sure that people have access to education, making sure that people have access to transport infrastructure, making sure that people have access to IT infrastructure. And it is significant because what most people focus on, and when we say the number of roads we have tied, the number of universities opened, I said that is not the message. The message is the number of people that now have access to those infrastructure. Today in Nigeria in the past 4 years, we've added 4 new airports in the northern part of the country. Dutse came on board, Bauchi came on board, Kebbi State came on board, and then you're asking yourself, what has that done for Nigeria? It has put every Nigerian within 2 hours of a transport node of an airport. So again, it is not in the number of airports that has been built, it is the access that has been created. That is the unifying principle of the Jonathan administration.
Of course, that is not to say that the years have been drama-free. That would imply that we as a nation have nothing to aspire to. Indeed, development is a source evidence of overcoming challenges and obstacles. The challenges notwithstanding, I am sure that, like me, the vast records of wealth that we have in terms of our growth and development, particularly during the democratic years, are something to broadcast, promote, and consolidate upon. Truth be told, if we don't talk about our achievements and the strides we've made collectively, how do we hope to grow or even consolidate our current gains? People, we need to talk about the good things happening around us. We need to broadcast them far and wide. Otherwise, the outside world will keep presenting us as an underdeveloped nation and a backward people who refuse to grow, despite calling themselves the giant of Africa. And really, no nation can grow into maturity unless its people see her as a work in progress and a place of growth, with everyone pitching their tent on the development train. The major wealth of any nation is its people. People working tirelessly to get the job done. Nigerians like you and I contributing to making things happen in our homeland. Nigerians like you and I putting in an honest day's work while contributing their quota to building the nation. People working with purpose and focus. Nigerians like you and I who know and believe that it is we the people who can develop our country, not outsiders. People, Nigeria's greatest wealth. The tireless, committed Nigerians that we have seen in these images bring to mind a simple poem of Rudyard Kipling, a popular British poet of the 18th century. I quote here the first and last stanzas. Land of our birth, we pledge to thee our love and toil in the years to be, when we are grown and take our place as men and women with our race. Land of our birth, our faith, our pride, for whose dear sake our fathers died. O motherland, we pledge to thee, head, heart, and hand through the years to be. That poem on its own epitomizes an unrepentant belief in one's country, an incomparable love for one's country, and an unbridled commitment to one's country. While we the citizens play our part in contributing to the wealth of our nation, we must also appreciate the fact that all our efforts have to be harnessed in such a way that they are meaningful. Sincere and focused cohesion is needed for our collective efforts to yield proper fruit and, in fact, be evident. The leadership of any nation is a crucial factor. Purposeful, purpose-led, and purpose-driven leadership for the purpose of promoting and building up our all-round wealth. The individual and even collective contributions of the citizens to making a nation what it is can only be actualized in totality by the leadership. In fact, the evidence that a nation is growing is in the role the leadership plays in harnessing the efforts of all to bring about development for all.
Don't play politics with development. It has been my philosophy.
It also implies in a consonant support for the citizenry to ensure a much-needed continuity of purpose. A committed synchronization of all effort across board is vital and most appropriate. What does Nigeria need at a time like this? What will be the best way to ensure an actualization of goals and targets that we ourselves have set for our national development? What is it that will ensure that the international community takes us serious about the rebirth of our nation? What does stability mean for us in the Nigeria of today? What is it that will ensure that our current work and efforts at putting worthy structures in place for future generations are not truncated unceremoniously?
My thoughts on moving forward. Let me first of all say what some of the major achievements of this administration and on thoughts on moving forward. I think generally, when you look at this administration, there are a lot of things it hasn't done. But no government does everything in 4 years. So that's not news. But there are so many things this administration has done that have never been done in this country, in the history of this country. So we have moved forward in many, many areas. And I can give you in different sectors, whether you're talking about job creation, we are talking about micro, small, and medium enterprises. You're talking about diversifying the economy. You're talking about industrialization. You're talking about trade. You're talking about attracting investment into the country. It's the first time in the history of this country that Nigeria will appear on the list of UNCTAD as the #1 destination for investment in Africa for 2 years consecutively in the last 3 years. Despite what you hear, it has never happened. We have mobilized more than 99 billion investment into the economy in terms of pipeline investment. Has never happened. We never had an industrial plan for this country to diversify. Every government talked about economic diversification. No government did anything about it. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria that we have a comprehensive plan to diversify the economy under the Industrial Revolution Plan. And today, I can tell you the 13 items that will replace oil going forward has never happened in the history of this country. When you look at the SME sector, nobody cared about the youth, the traders on the streets, the people who drive this economy. Only 8% of them got loans to the government. No business support services for them. No infrastructure development for them. Nothing was done for them. This is the administration for the first time in the history of this country that we have an SME council chaired by the vice president and that will address all those issues. Let me talk about 3 things that I think are fundamental and because these 3 issues have been raised in the election and all that. And Nigerians need to know. The first one is about job creation, which is important to every Nigerian and should influence the way Nigerians vote. If you look at in the last at least 5 or 6 years, the unemployment rate had always been over 20%. No government took deliberate steps to address this. This government, under the leadership of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, has done quite a lot of groundbreaking, game-changing things in the sector. And I give you some examples. For the first time in the history of this country, we have a job board chaired by the vice president, with all the sectors that actually employ a lot of people as members of that. The second thing which has been done is the fact that we now have a way of measuring jobs created in the country. No government ever had. I can tell you confidently today that this government in a year created 1.3 million jobs, according to NBS. Now, if you look at other statistics, maybe it's as high as 2.8, but let's go with the NBS numbers. I can tell you that it created 1.3 million, and I can tell you where these jobs are being created. For the first time in the history of this country, we have activated the job centers in all the states of the Federation. We're going to have them in 774 local governments. Now, we're also doing job exchange. It's a system where the youth can go into the system. Those looking for jobs can look at it, look at the skills, they match it with the requirements, and get that done. Again, for the first time in the history of this country, we have embarked upon a skills gap assessment. Because everywhere you go, there are jobs, but there are no skills. Our universities are not producing enough graduates for the economy. We have partnered with UNIDO, and this is what advanced countries have done. It will tell us in each sector what the requirements are, the gaps there, and the skills gap. This will inform the universities, we involve the polytechnics, and we also inform the ITF Training Institute to train people and make sure that those gaps are filled. So for example, if you look at Brazil, you look at the gap today, well, you look at where investments are going. I talked about attracting 59 billion investment. We have policies on sugar. We have policies on auto. We need auto engineers. Dangote is investing about $9 billion in an integrated petrochemical plant. We need petrochemical engineers, at least 5,000 of them in the next 3 years. So you need to plan ahead. We never had that way of doing that in the country. For the first time in the history of this country, we now have that. The number of people that are idle, according to NBS, that percentage is down by 40%. So everything is on the right, and this job board has a target to create a minimum of 2 million jobs a year for the next 10 years. Now, when you do that, the percentage if you create less than 2 million jobs a year, I hear different people saying we'll create 1 million jobs a year. That would do nothing. because at least 1.8 million people come onto the job market every year. You need to create more than so. The work has started, a lot of progress has been made, you need to consolidate.
There is so much development going on in Nigeria today, my people. Pictures and images don't lie. Nigerians need that stability and continuity that can guarantee that these many developmental projects started by the current government are actualized, so that the new improved Nigeria of our vision can emerge. People these days talk so much about change. I dare say that change has been happening in Nigeria for the past 4 to 6 years. Years that have seen an overhaul of departments, infrastructure, policies, issues, and even in the way we carry out businesses of governance, all for our common good. It has been a hard and tortuous journey, but gradually, as we have seen, the nation is undergoing the much-needed overhaul, and in the process, the much-needed change is actually being entrenched. That is what we call progress. The giant strides made so far mean that the lofty heights that we aspire to are quite attainable. But the cautious, we ourselves must first have a belief and perception of the wealth that our country has been blessed with. Wealth of people, purposeful, purpose-led, and purpose-driven people. Wealth of resources, industrial, agricultural, mineral resources. Wealth of infrastructure, wealth of finance, wealth of land, wealth of oil, wealth of brains, high IQ, intellect, and smartness, wealth of enterprise and entrepreneurship, wealth of development, wealth of creativity and entertainment. Our fame, music, and arts are being exported far and wide. Wealth of culture and traditions. Wealth of values, rights, and sense of worth. Wealth of faith, trust, and belief. Wealth of growth and development. Wealth of leaders, purposeful, purpose-led, and purpose-driven leaders that believe in our diverse wealth components is what should steer our commitment to work in consonance with the leadership to make for our unique development. No leadership, no matter how exceptional, can succeed without the support of its followers. Nigeria is a country blessed with so much wealth. An indisputable fact that requires that we all wake up to the simple truth that continuity is what will set the pace for our wealth to have a clear direction, a direction that will make the wealth of Nigeria worthy of being passed on to the next generation. We need to renew our commitment under the current dispensation, consolidate on our successes, while working on correcting the errors and mistakes made. Apply the lesson learned to ensure that we complete the job we began 4 years ago. A truncation of the journey of the past 4 years, a bet at the altar of politics, will only take us back to a begin-again process. Can we really afford this as a nation? Can we afford to do this to ourselves as a people? Can we afford to allow the progressive steps and achievements we have made so far to be cast into a dustbin as if they never happened? We have made progress, real progress, in spite of our various challenges. We have made so much progress, and we must continue to do so. Therefore, we invite you to join us on the continuity train to consolidate our successes while working on correcting the errors and mistakes made and apply the lessons learned to ensure that we complete the job we began 4 to 6 years ago. You are part of this continuity train by your simple yet fundamental belief in Nigeria. People, we need to keep pressing forward, consolidating as we go. Progress, as the saying goes, forward ever, backward never. Dr. Goodluck Azikiwe Ebele Jonathan and his dynamic team of achievers have begun a progressive turnaround in and around the nation. They have made commendable strides all across the nation and their transformation mission. The touch of continuity that we need at this time in our national history is in his hands to take us to the next level of development, a lasting development. You, me, we are the people who can give him that support to make it all happen and to make our country stand tall again for us and for future generations. Together, we can do it. Join the continuity train for sustained growth and development to greatness.
Mm-hmm.